The Zarkathi never lost a war, not once in 5,000 years. Their massive bioorganic ships crawled through space like giant purple octopi, tentacles glowing with energy weapons that could crack planets. Inside these living vessels, the tall, four-armed commanders linked minds through a telepathic network. They fought as one, and conquered as one. Supreme Vanquisher Krell-10 stood on the command platform of the lead warship, his gray skin reflecting the blue light of ship consoles. He had personally conquered 12 worlds. His name sparked fear across 3 star systems. New world detected, reported his second mind. Small planet, mostly water. Primitive technology. Designation: Earth. Krell-10's mouthplates clicked together in what passed for a smile among his kind. Easy conquests bored him, but orders were orders. Standard procedure, he commanded. 3 ships. Quick subjugation. The Zarkathi warships approached the blue-green planet, ignoring the primitive satellites and scanning for military bases. They found only scattered defenses, nothing that could challenge even one Zarkathi vessel. "These humans build weapons to kill each other instead of preparing for us," said his third mind with disgust. "They waste resources fighting themselves." Krell-10 nodded. Like all lesser species, they never look to the stars until it's too late. The Zarkathi had studied Earth's transmissions. Humans fought over borders, resources, and beliefs. They divided themselves by skin color and language. The Zarkathi saw only weakness in this chaos. "Begin standard approach," ordered Krell-10. "Broadcast surrender terms." His ship fired the translation beam, sending the message to every device on Earth. "People of Earth, you are now part of the Zarkathi Dominion. Surrender all weapons. Accept our rule. Resistance brings only death." He waited for the panic, the desperate calls from Earth's leaders, the terrified acceptance of fate that all primitive species showed when faced with superior power. Instead, silence. "Strange," said his second mind. No response. Suddenly, ship sensors screamed warnings. Something large had appeared from behind one of the gas giant's moons, seemingly out of nowhere. "Impossible," whispered the third mind. "Our scanners would have detected it." But there it was, a single human warship, not built like the Zarkathi's organic vessels. This ship was angular, with sharp edges and strange geometries that hurt the eye. It was black as space itself, with only faint blue lights marking its massive hull. The ship was twice the size of Krell-10's vessel. "How did they hide it from our scans?" demanded Krell-10, feeling something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Was it uncertainty? The human ship moved with impossible speed for its size, positioning itself between the Zarkathi fleet and Earth. It broadcast no messages, made no threats. It simply waited. "They have only one warship," Krell-10 said, regaining confidence. "Fire warning shots. Show them our power." Energy beams lashed out from his vessel toward the human ship. The Zarkathi watched, expecting the beams to scorch the human vessel's hull. Instead, the energy weapons dissipated harmlessly before even touching the ship. It was as if the human vessel was surrounded by an invisible shield they couldn't detect. Then, to the horror of every Zarkathi, their communication systems activated. A human voice spoke in perfect Zarkathi language. "This is Captain Eliza Chen of the U.S. Defiance. We've been watching you for decades. We know how you fight. We don't want war." There was a pause that seemed to stretch forever. "But we've never lost one either." For the first time in his life, Supreme Vanquisher Krell-10 felt fear. Captain Eliza Chen stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, watching the alien ships through the main view screen. Her dark eyes remained calm as they studied the bioorganic vessels of the Zarkathi. At 53, Chen had gray streaks in her black hair and a scar across her left cheek from Earth's last global conflict. "They're confused," said her science officer, Dr. Patel. "Their scans can't identify our hull material or weapon systems." Chen nodded. "Good. That was the plan. For 20 years, Humans had intercepted Zarkathi communications and studied their technology. When a scout ship crashed in the Gobi Desert 50 years ago, humanity realized they weren't alone, and that the galaxy was not friendly. They had prepared in secret ever since. "They're charging weapons again, Captain," reported the tactical officer. "Let them," Chen said calmly. "The energy absorption field is working perfectly." The Defiance didn't look like other human ships. Its strange angles and black material came from reverse-engineered alien technology. The ship could absorb energy attacks and use that power to strengthen its shields. The alien commander's face appeared on screen. Supreme Vanquisher, Kreltan's 4 arms moved in agitation, his gray skin flushed purple with anger. "Impossible," he shouted. "No species has technology to block our weapons. Surrender now, or we will destroy your world." Chen smiled slightly. "Supreme Vanquisher, we offer friendship instead of war. Earth wants peaceful relations with the Zarkathi Dominion." Peace. The alien seemed genuinely confused by the word. "You face superior forces and offer peace." "Yes," Chen replied. "Just because we can fight doesn't mean we want to. We've studied your people for decades. We respect your achievements." The alien commander's eyes narrowed. "If you've studied us, you know we never retreat. And if you've scanned us," Chen countered, "you know you can't defeat this ship with your current forces. Why sacrifice your crews when we can talk instead?" This confused the Zarkathi even more. In their culture, showing mercy was weakness. They couldn't understand why humans would offer peace when they clearly had military advantage. Kreltan turned to speak with someone off-screen, his voice rising in what sounded like an argument. When he turned back, his composure had returned. "We will withdraw temporarily to analyze this situation," he said stiffly. "But know this, human. The Dominion has conquered 1,000 worlds. One ship cannot stand against our full might." Chen nodded respectfully. "We understand. We'll be here when you return." The alien ships slowly backed away, then vanished in flashes of purple light. On the bridge, the crew relaxed slightly. "That went well," Chen said, allowing herself to exhale. "They didn't expect resistance, and they certainly didn't expect us to know their language and tactics." "Will they come back with more ships?" asked her first officer. Chen nodded grimly. "Absolutely. The Zarkathi never back down permanently. They're sending messages to their homeworld right now." "Then why let them go?" "Because," Chen said, looking at the stars where the aliens had been, "we need them to bring their leaders. This isn't just about defending Earth. It's about changing how the Zarkathi think about war itself." She turned to her communications officer. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them first contact went exactly as predicted. And tell Ambassador Okafor to prepare for negotiations." The real battle, Chen knew, was just beginning. Not one fought with weapons, but with words and ideas. The Zarkathi had never encountered a species that could match them. Now they had, and it terrified them. That fear might just save both their civilizations. Ambassador James Okafor straightened his blue formal jacket as the shuttle docked with the U.S. Defiance. At 62, he moved with the careful dignity of someone who had spent his life choosing words that prevented wars. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador," Captain Chen said, greeting him in the docking bay. Okafor nodded. "Captain, I hear you've made quite an impression on our visitors." "They weren't expecting us to be ready," Chen replied as they walked toward the bridge. "And they definitely weren't expecting us to offer peace." "That's why I'm here," Okafor said with a small smile. "You've shown them our strength. Now I'll show them our wisdom." 3 days later, the Zarkathi returned. This time, they brought 5 warships instead of 3. The new ships were larger, with more weapons and strange bulges along their purple hulls. Among the delegation that boarded the Defiance was war thinker Xalvin, the Dominion's greatest military strategist. Taller than other Zarkathi, with 6 arms instead of 4, his eyes were deep red and constantly moving, analyzing everything. In the conference room, Captain Chen and Ambassador Okafor sat across from Supreme Vanquisher Krell Tan and War Thinker Xalvin. "Your ship is impressive," Xalvin said, studying the humans, "but it is just one vessel." Okafor smiled warmly. "We appreciate the compliment. The Defiance represents humanity's hope for peaceful cooperation with the stars." Cooperation. Krell Tan clicked his mouthplates in their version of laughter. "The strong do not cooperate with the weak. They command. Yet here you are, talking instead of attacking," Okafor pointed out. "Perhaps strength takes many forms." This seemed to confuse the aliens. Xalvin leaned forward, his red eyes fixed on Okafor. "You are different from the captain," the War Thinker observed. "She is a warrior. What are you?" "I am a diplomat," Okafor explained. "I help different peoples understand each other." "Why do you need someone for this?" Xalvin asked. "All Zarkathi understand each other through shared mind links." Okafor nodded. "Humans don't have telepathy. We are individuals with different thoughts and ideas. Sometimes this creates conflict, but it also creates strength through diversity." The aliens exchanged glances. The idea of a species thriving without mental unity seemed impossible to them. While they talked, Xalvin secretly ordered his technicians to probe the Defiance's computer systems. Within minutes, the hidden Zarkathi code encountered layers of defenses specifically designed to stop their methods. "Impossible," whispered a technician through the mind link. "They have countermeasures for techniques we've never used against them." Xalvin's outer calm didn't change, but inside, his mind raced. How could humans, with their short lives and divided minds, have prepared so thoroughly? "We request a tour of your vessel," Krell Tan demanded suddenly. Chen smiled. "Of course, we have nothing to hide." As they walked through the ship, Xalvin noticed how different the human crew members were from each other. Different colors, sizes, ways of speaking. Yet they worked together perfectly. "How long do humans live?" Xalvin asked suddenly. "About 80 to 100 years, Okafor replied. Xalvin stopped walking. The Zarkathi lived for over 500 years. How had these short-lived creatures developed such advanced defenses? What troubled the War Thinker most wasn't the human ship or weapons. It was a growing, uncomfortable feeling that the Dominion had finally met something they didn't understand. And in war, what you don't understand can destroy you. Deep inside the Zarkathi homeworld, 7 ancient beings sat in a circular chamber. Their skin was pale gray, their multiple arms thin and weak from age. But their minds remained powerful. This was the Eternal Council, rulers of the Dominion for over 1,000 years. "Impossible," said the first elder, his voice echoing in the chamber. "No species has ever resisted our initial contact." "Yet these humans have," replied the second elder. "One ship neutralized our weapons." The images from Supreme Vanquisher Krell Tan's report floated in the center of the room. The strange black human ship, the failed attacks, the calm human captain offering peace. "They must be destroyed," declared the third elder. "Send the full invasion fleet." Back on Earth, cities across the planet hummed with activity. But the activity wasn't on the surface. It was underground. Massive doors slid open beneath oceans, mountains, and deserts. Hidden shipyards that had operated in secret for decades revealed themselves. Workers rushed to finish the final preparations on hundreds of warships, each one different from the others. On the Defiance, Captain Chen invited War Thinker Xalvin to a special room filled with glowing screens. "What is this place?" asked the alien strategist. "Our military history archives," Chen explained. "I thought you might find it interesting." Xalvin's red eyes widened as the screens activated, showing thousands of human conflicts across time. Ancient battles with swords and shields, wars with primitive gunpowder weapons, modern conflicts with tanks and planes. Each screen showed different tactics, strategies, and outcomes. "How many wars have humans fought?" Xalvin asked, his voice hushed. "Too many to count," Chen said sadly. "For thousands of years, We fought each other. Different nations, religions, ideologies. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. Zolvin moved from screen to screen, absorbing the endless variations of human conflict. The Zarkathi had fought the same way for millennia, using their superior technology and telepathic unity to overwhelm enemies. But humans fought differently in every war. They adapted, evolved, changed tactics. This one. Zolvin pointed to a screen showing a small group defeating a much larger force. What is this? Guerrilla warfare, Chen explained. The weaker side using knowledge of local terrain to defeat a stronger enemy. And this? The alien pointed to another screen. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, Chen said, using energy to disable technology instead of destroying it. Zolvin turned to Chen, his face showing confusion. Why do you share this with me? I am your enemy. Chen's face grew serious. Because I want you to understand something. We don't want to fight you. But we've spent our entire history fighting each other. War is in our blood. She stepped closer. The ship that crashed in our desert 50 years ago. It showed us we weren't alone. We realized we needed to prepare for something worse than ourselves. Why fight each other if you knew about outside threats? Zolvin couldn't understand. Chen smiled sadly. Old habits, but it made us stronger. Each conflict taught us something new. While you fought the same way for centuries, we created 1,000 ways to wage war. Zolvin felt something he had never experienced before, doubt. Your people are coming, Chen said quietly. A lot more ships. We know. But before they arrive, ask yourself this. Do you really want to fight a species that has never stopped fighting itself? Space rippled and tore open as the Zarkathi Armada arrived. Not 3 ships, not 5, but 23 massive biovessels, each one alive and hungry for battle. They spread out around Earth's solar system like a net, blocking escape routes. At the center of the Armada was a ship 3 times larger than any other. Its purple hull glowed with energy, its tentacles stretching for miles. This was the Dominion's flagship, commanded by Supreme Overlord Zinthar himself. Zinthar stood 9 feet tall, with 8 arms and skin that shifted colors with his mood. For 600 years, he had led the Dominion's expansion. He had never lost a conquest. Show me this human ship, he ordered, his voice deep and cold. The image of the U.S. Defiance appeared on the main view screen. Zinthar studied it with 6 yellow eyes. One ship. This is what concerns the Eternal Council. He laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Prepare for attack. On Earth, alarms sounded in command centers around the planet. General Maria Santos looked at the holographic display showing the massive alien armada. They're here, she said calmly. Signal the fleet. Operation Hydra begins now. Across the solar system, hidden doors opened in Mars' red cliffs. Secret bases on Europa's icy surface revealed landing pads. Disguised stations orbiting Saturn's rings activated defenses. Humanity's real fleet emerged, not 1 ship, but hundreds. Each was different, some small and fast, others large and heavily armored. Some carried weapons the Zarkathi had never seen. Others were designed to counter specific alien technologies. On the Defiance, Captain Chen received the alert. They've arrived, and they brought Supreme Overlord Zinthar himself. Warthinker Zolvin, who had remained on the human ship, looked shocked. The Supreme Overlord. He has not led a conquest fleet in 100 years. We must be special, Chen said with a grim smile. She turned to her communications officer. Send the signal. Recall all diplomatic personnel. The Defiance is returning to Earth. As the human ship turned and accelerated toward Earth, the Zarkathi flagship sent a message. Humans, your time ends today. Surrender or die. On his flagship, Zinthar watched the Defiance retreat. They run already. Follow them. But Warthinker Zolvin, linked telepathically to the fleet from the human ship, sent an urgent warning. Supreme Overlord. The humans have more ships. Many more. This is a trap. Zinfar's mood skin turned red with anger. Impossible. Our scouts detected only one warship. Then, on every screen in the Scifi fleet, the sensors lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of human vessels appeared from hiding places throughout the solar system. "What is this?" demanded Zinfar as the human fleet took formation around Earth. Each ship was unique. Some were small and nimble, darting between planets. Others were massive, heavily armored vessels that moved with surprising speed. Some had weapons the Scifi recognized. Others had technology they couldn't identify. Warthinker Xalvin's voice echoed through the telepathic network. "Supreme Overlord, these humans are not like our previous conquests. They prepared specifically for us. They study our tactics and developed countermeasures." "Silence," roared Zinfar. "They are primitive creatures with divided minds. We are the Dominion. We cannot be defeated." He turned to his commanders. "Prepare all ships for battle. We attack at dawn." But for the first time in his long life, Supreme Overlord Zinfar felt uncertain. These humans had surprised them at every turn. What other surprises were waiting? Dawn came silently in the emptiness of space. The Scifi fleet moved into perfect attack formation, a crescent of massive bioships facing Earth. They had used this same formation to conquer 100 worlds. "Begin the attack," ordered Supreme Overlord Zinfar. Standard conquest pattern. The alien warships surged forward, tentacles glowing with energy. They expected the humans to form a defensive line around their planet. That's what every species did when faced with the Dominion's might. But the human ships didn't form a line. They scattered. "What are they doing?" Zinfar demanded. "Where is their defense formation?" On the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, now orbiting Earth alongside the human fleet, Captain Chen watched the battle unfold on her view screen. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Delta," she ordered calmly. "Remember your training. Don't fight the way they expect." Human ships darted between planets and moons, using natural bodies as shields. Some vessels dipped into Jupiter's clouds, disappearing from sensors. Others hid behind asteroids, emerging only to fire quick shots before vanishing again. No two human ships used the same tactics. A group of small, fast vessels called Wasps swarmed around a Scifi warship, firing precise shots at the same spot until they broke through its organic hull. Another human ship, the Trickster, projected false sensor readings, making it appear to be in multiple places at once. The Defiance itself led a direct assault on Zinfar's flagship, absorbing energy attacks and firing back with weapons reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship. In the Jupiter system, Commander Sarah Lee led a squad of specialized ships equipped to operate in extreme radiation. They lured 3 Scifi vessels into Jupiter's radiation belts. The human ships, protected by special shielding, continued functioning normally. But the Scifi bioships, whose organic systems couldn't handle the radiation, began to fail. "Our ships near Jupiter are dying," cried a Scifi commander through the telepathic network. "The radiation is too strong." Near Saturn, another human tactic unfolded. Captain Miguel Rice detonated carefully placed nuclear charges in Saturn's rings. The explosions created debris fields that tore through the hulls of Scifi ships that followed him there. The Scifi commanders, used to fighting as one mind against predictable enemies, couldn't adapt to the chaos. When they adjusted to one human tactic, they faced 3 new ones. On his flagship, Supreme Overlord, Zinfar watched in growing horror as 5 of his warships were disabled or destroyed in the first hour of battle. The humans had lost only 3 vessels. "Impossible," he roared, his skin turning deep red with rage. "They are not fighting properly. There is no order to their attack." Warthinker Xalvin, watching from the Defiance, sent a message through the telepathic link. "That is their strength, Supreme Overlord. They do not think as one. Each commander makes different choices. We cannot predict them." For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Zarkathi felt true fear. These humans didn't fight like any species they had ever encountered. They fought like a swarm of different creatures, each with its own mind and method. The battle raged on, stars silent witnesses to the greatest defeat the Dominion had ever faced. The battle entered its second day. The Zarkathi had lost 7 ships now. The humans had lost 5. But something strange was happening to the alien fleet. "Supreme Overlord," reported a commander, his voice shaking through the telepathic link. "Our neural network is experiencing interference." Zinfar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Strange thought patterns are appearing in our shared consciousness. They're not coming from any of us, but they're spreading through the network." On Earth, in a heavily guarded underground facility, Dr. Maya Wong monitored a bank of quantum computers. Sweat beaded on her forehead as her fingers danced across the controls. "How's the brain hack going?" asked General Santos, standing behind her. Dr. Wong nodded without looking up. "It's working. Our algorithm is generating random thought patterns that mimic Zarkathi brain activity. Their telepathic network is carrying our fake thoughts to every ship in their fleet. And they can't block it. They've never needed to," Wong explained. "Their telepathy has always been an advantage, never a weakness. Until now." Aboard the Defiance, Ambassador Okafor requested a private meeting with war thinker Xalvin. They met in a small conference room away from the bridge. "Your fleet is in disarray," Okafor said gently. Xalvin's red eyes showed his inner turmoil. "How are you doing this? Our shared consciousness is filled with chaos." "The same way we beat your weapons," Okafor explained. "We studied you. We learned how your telepathy works." "But why? Why prepare so thoroughly for a species you'd never met?" Okafor sighed. "Because we found your scout ship 50 years ago. We learned about the Dominion, about how you conquer every world you find." Xalvin stared at the human diplomat. "You could have built weapons to destroy us. Instead, you built weapons to confuse us." "We don't want to destroy you," Okafor said. "We want to change you." The alien's eyes widened. "Change us? How?" "By showing you a different way to exist. Your greatest strength is your unity, but it's also your greatest weakness. Unity is never weakness." Xalvin protested. Okafor leaned forward. "When all minds think alike, where do new ideas come from? Your species hasn't changed its tactics in 1,000 years. We have no need to change. Our ways work." "Until now," Okafor pointed out. "Until you met humans." Xalvin fell silent, considering this. "How do humans function without unity?" he finally asked. "You constantly disagree with each other. Your leaders argue. Your nations compete. It seems chaotic." Okafor laughed. "It is chaotic, and frustrating, and inefficient, but it's also our greatest strength. I don't understand. When we disagree, we must convince each other using facts and logic. When our ideas compete, only the best survive. We argue constantly. That's how we know when we found the best solution." Xalvin had never considered this. In Zarkathi society, disagreement was seen as dysfunction. Meanwhile, Earth's quantum communications network had made another breakthrough. They had traced the telepathic signals back to their source, discovering the location of the Zarkathi homeworld. Captain Chen received the coordinates with a grim smile. It was time for the next phase of humanity's plan. A mission not to attack, but to reveal a truth that could change an entire civilization. "Prepare a strike team," she ordered. "We're going to the heart of the Dominion." Captain Eliza Chen stood in the hangar bay of the Defiance, looking at the small stealth ship that would take her team to the Zarkathi homeworld. The black vessel was barely visible even from a few feet away, its surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "You understand this is likely a one-way trip," she told the volunteers assembled before her. The team included communications experts, scientists, and a squad of elite soldiers. "We all volunteered knowing the risks, Captain," said Lieutenant Kim. the team's security chief. Chen nodded. Our mission isn't to attack, but to broadcast. We'll use their own telepathic network against them. Dr. Patel held up a small silver device. This contains Earth's complete cultural and historical database: art, music, literature, philosophy, and most importantly, our history of overcoming our violent past. Our goal is to reach their collective consciousness transmitter, Chen continued. We'll broadcast directly into the shared mind of all Zarkathi, not to harm them, but to show them another way to exist. As the team boarded the stealth ship, war thinker Zalvin approached Chen. Your plan is suicide, he said quietly. The homeworld is heavily defended. Chen smiled. We found something your people don't know about: spatial anomalies that your sensors can't detect. Shortcuts through space. Zalvin's red eyes widened. Impossible. There's that word again, Chen replied. Your people need to stop using it. Back in Earth's solar system, the battle had reached a critical point. The Zarkathi flagship had broken through Earth's defensive line, positioning itself to deliver a devastating attack on the planet's northern hemisphere. Supreme Overlord Zinfar stood on his command platform, his skin glowing bright red with rage and triumph. Finally, he roared, prepare the planet-killer weapon. Earth will be an example to all who defy the Dominion. But deep in the ship's weapon control chamber, Warthinker Xalvin's words had affected one of the commanders. Second Mind Talvin found himself doing something no Zarkathi had ever done, questioning an order. The human ambassador's words echoed in his thoughts. When all minds think alike, where do new ideas come from? As energy built up in the planet-killer weapon, Talvin made a decision that would change history. He secretly altered the targeting system, ensuring the weapon would miss Earth by thousands of miles. Meanwhile, Chen's stealth ship slipped through a spatial anomaly, a ripple in space-time that the Zarkathi had never detected. In moments, they traversed distances that should have taken weeks. They emerged near the Zarkathi homeworld, a massive purple planet surrounded by organic defense platforms that looked like giant floating jellyfish. My God, whispered Lieutenant Kim. Their whole civilization is biological technology, and connected by a single consciousness, added Dr. Patel, which makes them powerful but vulnerable. At the planet's surface, a massive tower reached up into the atmosphere, the central hub of the collective consciousness, broadcasting the shared thoughts of the Eternal Council to all Zarkathi. That's our target, Chen said, pointing to the tower. Ready the broadcast package. We're going to give the Zarkathi something they've never had before. What's that, Captain? Asked the young ensign. Chen's eyes were determined as she replied. Freedom to think for themselves. Captain Chen's team moved silently through the strange organic structures of the Zarkathi capital city. Everything around them pulsed with life. Buildings that breathed, walkways that adjusted to footsteps, lights that grew rather than switched on. It's beautiful, in a way, whispered Dr. Patel as they hid from a patrol of guards. Stay focused, Chen reminded her. The consciousness tower is half a mile ahead. Back in Earth's solar system, chaos erupted among the Zarkathi fleet. The planet-killer weapon had fired but missed Earth completely, disappearing into empty space. What happened? Supreme Overlord Zinfar roared, his skin flashing dangerous patterns of red and black. Unknown malfunction, Supreme Overlord, reported Second Mind Talvin, hiding his act of sabotage. Before Zinfar could order another attack, something unprecedented occurred. Across the entire Zarkathi fleet, commanders began receiving conflicting orders through the telepathic network. Retreat immediately, came one command. Continue the attack, insisted another. Cease fire and open negotiations, said a third. The Zarkathi commanders, who had never experienced disagreement in their unified consciousness, were paralyzed with confusion. What is happening? Zinfar demanded. Who is sending these contradictory orders? On the Zarkathi homeworld, Chen's team had reached the base of the consciousness tower, While Lieutenant Kim's security team created a diversion, Chen and Dr. Patel slipped inside. The interior was a vast chamber filled with floating Zarkathi elders, their bodies wired directly into the telepathic network. At the center stood a crystal structure that pulsed with purple energy. "The broadcast node," Patel whispered, pointing to the crystal. "We need to connect our device to that." Chen nodded and began moving toward it, when suddenly alarms blared throughout the chamber. "Intruders detected," announced a voice. "Non-Zarkathi presence in the sacred chamber." Guards rushed in from all entrances. Chen and Patel found themselves surrounded, energy weapons pointed at them from all directions. "Now or never," Chen said, tossing the broadcast device to Patel. The scientist caught it and lunged for the crystal, managing to attach it before being grabbed by guards. The effect was immediate and galaxy-wide. For the first time in their history, every Zarkathi simultaneously experienced something different. Human thought patterns, emotions, and ideas flooded their collective consciousness. They saw Earth's bloody history, but also its art, music, and philosophy. They experienced human concepts of freedom, individuality, and self-determination. Across the Dominion, Zarkathi stopped whatever they were doing, overwhelmed by these new sensations. Some collapsed, others cried out. Many simply stood frozen as their minds expanded with concepts they had never considered. In the invasion fleet, Supreme Overlord Zinfar clutched his head in agony. What have they done? Stop it. Stop these terrible thoughts. But it was too late. The unity of the Zarkathi collective consciousness was fracturing. For the first time, individual Zarkathi began forming their own opinions, questioning commands, thinking independently. "This is madness," Zinfar screamed. "They are destroying us with their disorder." In desperation, he ordered loyal ships to fire on any vessel showing signs of disobedience. The Zarkathi civil war had begun, and in that moment of chaos, Earth's fleet saw their opportunity to end the conflict once and for all by targeting not the Zarkathi people, but the system that controlled them. The Defiance raced through the chaos of the Zarkathi civil war, dodging energy beams from ships loyal to Supreme Overlord Zinfar. Its mission was clear: deploy the new weapon that could end this conflict without more bloodshed. "Target locked on the Supreme Overlord's flagship," reported the tactical officer. "The telepathic disruptor is ready." Captain Chen, safely returned from the homeworld mission, gave the order. "Fire." A pulse of blue energy shot from the Defiance, engulfing Zinfar's massive ship. The energy didn't damage the vessel's hull, but inside, every Zarkathi suddenly lost their telepathic connection. For the first time in their lives, they experienced true mental isolation. Supreme Overlord Zinfar fell to his knees, 6 hands clutching his head. For 600 years, he had never been alone in his mind. The silence was deafening. What is this?" he gasped. Warthinker Xalvin's voice came through the ship's communication system, not through telepathy. "This is freedom, Supreme Overlord. The freedom to think your own thoughts, to make your own choices." Across the fleet, the same scene played out. Some Zarkathi panicked in the silence of their own minds. Others experienced a strange new sensation: peace. 3 days later, representatives from both species met aboard the Defiance. Warthinker Xalvin, now leading the reformed Zarkathi government, sat across from Captain Chen and Ambassador Okafor. "The Eternal Council has been dissolved," Xalvin announced. "We are establishing a representative system where different voices can be heard. There will be challenges," Okafor warned. "Democracy isn't easy." "Neither is war," replied Xalvin. "Yet we mastered that. We can master peace as well." As they signed the historic alliance between Earth and the former Dominion, Xalvin asked the question that had troubled him since the beginning. "You could have destroyed us. Your diversified fleet, your understanding of our weaknesses, you could have eliminated the Zarkathi completely. Why didn't you?" Chen looked at the alien thoughtfully. "Because we've been where you are. Throughout our history, we've faced the temptation to destroy our enemies completely. Sometimes we gave in to that temptation, and we always regretted it. We learned, Okafor added, that true victory isn't eliminating your opponent. It's turning an enemy into a friend. Zolvin's red eyes showed a new emotion, hope. What happens now? Chen smiled. Now we explore together. There are other species out there. Some may be friendly, others not. But we'll face them as allies, not as conquerors. 1 month later, a remarkable sight appeared at the edge of a distant star system. 2 ships traveled side by side. The sleek black U.S. Defiance and a purple Zarkathi vessel, now renamed the Explorer. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Chen looked at her first officer. Send the greeting message. Let's see if they respond. As the 2 allied ships approached the unknown civilization, the galaxy faced something it had never seen before. 2 former enemies working together, combining the Zarkathi's ancient wisdom with humanity's adaptability and innovation. The species that had never feared war had learned something more powerful than conquest from the humans. They had learned that the greatest strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. Not from forcing others to think like you, but from embracing the power of thinking differently. And throughout the stars, word began to spread of this new alliance, and of the human warship that had changed the course of galactic history.